Officially live. Here we go. I believe it's our 10th episode now. We're getting into the double digits, so makes me a very happy man. And I'm excited now to have our official second international podcast. And this time, we're going from my home away from home of Spain. And I'm so excited to have our first Fulbright Scholar on the podcast. So Melissa herself is a superstar, and I will let her take it away with introducing herself. So let the world know who you are and, more importantly, where you are right now.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm super happy to be here right now and talk about my current experience as a Fulbright scholar, my experience last year as a Fulbrighter, and then my study abroad experience in 2017, which feels like it was just yesterday, but it really wasn't. It's like 4 years ago now where the dream started. I'm from Columbus, New Jersey originally. Studied at E-Town College. My major was Spanish education, pre-K through 12. And then from there, I just really found my dream of immersing myself in other languages and other cultures and teaching students a foreign language, whether it be Spanish, whether it be English, which is what I'm doing now. And after I graduated in 2019, I flew to Spain to be a Fulbright scholar, and I'm still here now, and I'm in La Rioja, Spain, which is like in the northern part of Spain. It's very well known for its wine, so if you're like, oh wait, that sounds kind of familiar, like that region, that's probably why.
If you're a wine person, if you're a wine expert, La Rioja makes sense.
I mean, like, you kind of have to be if you're either a Spaniard or, I don't know, like you're living here now and you're an honorary Spaniard. I feel like you have to know.
So I technically knew that. I knew of like the name, but I didn't know, like, even though it was there technically, that wine was so big in that part. Now, for you, how is it like with your wine? Love of wine, and then being there, is like the wine tastes a little bit better, or is it more so just like you're in an area where it's known per se?
Well, I've always like really liked Spanish wine. I feel like since I got here, it's just more of like a cultural and society like thing. When you go out and have a drink with people, it's more like social.
Mm-hmm.
I still like can't describe to you what types of wine there are. I guess that comes with time. But for me, it was more of like a social thing. Like last year when I was a Fulbrighter, they had like what was called the wine train through La Rioja. And you could just go on a train that brought you to like this town that had all of these bodegas or wineries. And it was just like a full day. You just had to pay for one ticket and you just went bouncing from the wineries all around in that town. And I just remember I just didn't know anything about wine. So when they asked us, like, does it smell like it's an old fruit or a young fruit? I was like, grapes. Wine. What is it supposed to smell like? They were like, do you smell chocolate or vanilla? I still can't do that. I still don't know how to distinguish, but
they're very exquisite when it comes to that. Like for them, it's like the intricacies of like, is it soft or is it like a hard wine, or do you taste anything and everything?
I don't know. For me, I'm just like, it's good. You guys did a great job with this grape harvest this year. Genial. I don't know what else to say.
Fantastico. I'd say that's like the American standard of like, it tastes good. so good job.
And it's a lot cheaper here, even though it's like better quality in my opinion. So I'm just like, this is a great bargain and it tastes awesome. And I'm having this experience in a winery, but maybe some other people take it more seriously.
It's been very hard for me to drink sangria here in the States, just because like sangria, I don't know, it could have just been like that I was physically there in Spain drinking the sangria when I was studying abroad there. But like sangria on like a menu, like an option for a drink, it's just hard for me. Like I want to do it because it reminds me of Spain, but it's just not that same, like, it's not the same like feeling on the lip kind of.
It doesn't hit home as much as if it would in Spain, right?
It does not. But nonetheless, I do what I can to make myself feel as much of a Spaniard that I can. I'm trying to get to your level of of greatness when it comes to being a Spaniard. So
thank you.
I'll get there eventually. And how long, so including your time abroad in Valladolid and then in 2017 and now, how long have you been there specifically? Can you recollect like all the months and put it into one number percent?
Okay, so let's do this math together because maybe I'm not the best. I'm a language teacher, not a math teacher. So I was there for a semester in 2017, which was 4 months. And then I went back last year, September to beginning of March. So September, October, March. Okay, so that's 7. So we got like 11 months. And then this year, I've been here from September until now. But I mean, it's going to be a grant period of 9 months this year. So, I mean, well over a year I've been here. So, all together, which is crazy. But it's been like broken up because I've had to go home and then come back. So, not a full year yet.
The first, so combining all of that over a year, basically over a year combining all of that. The first of many. I'm sure you'll be there for decades to come, I'm sure.
Oh, goodness.
I'm like almost positive. And you know that too, I think. so we can all come to that realization. But that's awesome. That's so cool. And that's really what a lot of our conversation is going to be about today. Of course, we had like our pre-talk that I have with every guest, and it was majority Spain, and that's really what I want to talk about, because who better to talk about it than somebody who's living there, who is an unofficial yet official, soon to be official Spaniard. So let's start off with the origins. So we went to the same place, Valladolid, different times, but you per se even had more entrenched of Spanish roots because that's what you were studying from day one, from 212 onward, Spanish 212 onward, and then till the day you graduated. So where did that come from, the idea of wanting to do Spanish ed? Was there an interest with that? Just wanted to do it? And how did it flourish at your time at E-Town?
So it was kind of crazy. I mean, I didn't like change my major drastically, but in high school, I always really loved the subject of Spanish. And I loved English too. I just love languages and grammar. And I know it's weird. I'm like one of the few, right? But I also knew that I wanted to be a teacher from when I used to volunteer over summers with some summer camps and like some extended school year programs, which is made for kids who need extra support during the summer, like when they're off from school, maybe with what they have learned the past year. So I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I knew I also loved Spanish, but I wasn't ready to make that jump as a freshman yet to be like, I want to be a language teacher. Because in my head, I felt like a lot of people just don't really like that subject when they have to take it. It's either people love language or they hate it. And I wasn't ready to like be that teacher yet. But then when I got to E-Town, and I started talking to the professors, and I really started my Spanish classes, I realized, like, yes, I really want to do this, because at first I was just an elementary ed major, and I wanted to add Spanish as a second major. But they told me, like, if you do Spanish ed, it technically is a double major anyways, and we know that you like teaching little kids better. This will give you some extra experience in secondary school if like that's where you end up. So they really kind of convinced me. And from there, every semester I was involved with the Children's Spanish program, which is a program for students like in the area. And a lot of them were sons or daughters of the professors at E-Town. And they came after school, and it was like an hour-long program once a week. And it was a full immersion program. Everything was in Spanish from the moment they walked in to the moment they left. And I loved it. I thought it was a really big challenge because I was with the younger kids, like preschool to second or third grade, I believe the cutoff was when I was teaching. At first, I was like, how am I going to teach these kids Spanish and only Spanish if a lot of them can't even read English? And it was very difficult because at first I just had no concept. I was like thinking that they could read. So I walked into my first class and I had like things to read together. And I was like, these kids can't even read. So then I began doing like songs and dances and very like kinesthetic activities where they just have to move things and match them, and memory games. And I realized that language doesn't have to be something that students hate. It can be something fun, doesn't have to be the enemy. And it really helps when they start when they're young. So that's really when my love for bilingual education came about. So it all really did start at E-Town because I had like the pieces of the puzzle ready before then. But when I went to E-Town, talked to the language department, everything kind of came together.
It gelled.
Yeah.
Would you say like they were also a big part of that? Like they were a very big influence in the idea of like, you should do this and here's why. Like that hook per se, you say they were definitely a big part as well.
Oh, definitely. I don't think I would be where I am now without the professors at E-Town because they really pushed me. I think that they saw that I could do it and they really convinced me. And I think that that's an experience that honestly I just wouldn't have gotten at another college or university because I feel like E-Town is so personalized with the education. It's such a small department, you know, the language department. It's small but mighty, I like to say.
For sure.
Yeah, a lot of great professors as well as the ed department. And I just felt like I was always supported. Even when I said I wanted to do Fulbright, it was like, all right, let's go for it. Not once was it, oh, well, you know, like Spain is just, it's such a strict like program. They're very like small chances that you could get it. And I never heard that once. So,
Optimism. The glass is half full. The glass is half full. Do you remember? I just started laughing like for some reason. Do you remember when we met in 2012?
Of course. Listen, I met a lot of my friends in Spanish classes. And I'm like, how are these people my friends when I was just like so annoying and I loved grammar and I was like always asking questions about the subjunctive and conditional. But I met a lot of y'all through there.
Well, I remember like because I knew some of the people in that class and the people you were sitting with specifically, and I remember when I was grabbing your purse. So I would just like annoyingly grab Melissa's purse, but I didn't know at first that it was hers. I thought it was the person who was sitting next to her. So like I would just be a jerk and like grab her purse, and then she would just be like, and just and just take it back. And
I was
then,
like, who are you?
And then I think that was like my like unknowingly forcing a friendship with you. And then
That's
after
funny.
a while, I forget how I found out. I think you said you're like, what are you doing? And then I was like, I might as well know this girl now since she thinks I'm a thief.
Who is this guy? Like, but I'm glad it happened.
That class was great. That was, I'd say, one of my funniest classes because just like the characters we had in that class. We had a bunch of characters in that class.
Yeah. And I think that was the Spanish class that I had with the most people because then after that, you know, it goes like dwindling as you get into like the 300s.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think it was great. It wasn't early in the morning. We had a great professor, one of my favorites, who always came with some sort of story or anecdote to get us laughing. Yeah.
It was great. That was a good class. So I took a year off. I remember I took a year off of Spanish because I had 211. And then because I was a first year and I had it in my first semester. And then my second semester, I didn't take it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe let me take 212. I heard it's a fun class. Why not? So then I went back to it. Do you also remember like that first day when the professor would ask everybody, what's your experience in Spanish?
Yeah.
And then she would just like bluntly be like, oh, no, you shouldn't be in here.
Listen, I love the honesty. I'm all about it because she just like she didn't want people to fail or to do awfully. So I mean,
yes, which is a caring E-Town professor. That's how it should be. Just as much as you want people to succeed, you also have to be realistic in the sense of like, come on, like let's come down to earth, which was great.
Yeah, but I think that was one of my first college classes, and I was like, Oh my gosh.
Welcome to E-Town.
Yeah, but I was thinking, like, I hope I'm okay. I took AP Spanish and I, like, passed the AP exam. I hope so. And she let me stay. So
I passed the AP exam. I'm totally going to get a Fulbright scholarship. There's nothing to worry about. Everything's going to be fine.
listen, they're not linked because I would say that Spanish and English were the only ones I did very well in. So
it was unwillingly meant to be, and you knew it right away. You knew it all the time. Well, that was a great class. That was fun. That also sparked me going to the Peace Corps. So we all got something out of that class.
Oh, we all did, I'm sure. And if not, like a ton of people of those same people continued on to more Spanish classes, even if they didn't have to, because I believe that once you were in 212 or 211, like that was your one required course.
Yep.
But a ton of those faces, I saw them down the line in 300 classes.
In your classes and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm laughing all about it all of a sudden. I'm so shocked I didn't get like punched in the face from like all the purse snatching.
Was that your favorite Spanish class at E-Town?
Yeah. Well, I technically only took two. It was 211 and 212. Like those are the only two I actually took. Well, then abroad.
Yeah.
I took like all the nothing but Spanish classes, but at E-Town specifically, yeah, because that's where I met like a lot of people who had like a significant role in my experience at E-Town. So
I would have to say mine was Spanish grammar and composition. I willingly made it harder on myself because I made it like an honors course for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Like I'm saying, language teachers, we gotta love it. We love the grammar.
It's all about that's the big part of it. That's a big part of it. Awesome. So you take your classes, our Spanish classes, how we met, but also how you met a lot of other people, and then you go on this adventure of going to Spain and being there for a semester. So what made you choose Valladolid, which is a hot topic here because a lot of people on the show are from Valladolid, from our program. But for you specifically, why did you choose it?
Yeah, so I feel like I get this question so often. I met up with one of the teachers who I teach with and her boyfriend, and he was like, "Why did you choose Valladolid?" And I was like, "Listen, so I wanted an experience that was going to be authentic and true. I know that like Madrid and Barcelona are very touristy places. A ton of people pick them for study abroad. And I'm not trying to say that that's wrong and people shouldn't do that. But for me, it just wasn't what I was looking for. Because in the past, I had done really well in my language classes in writing and reading, listening as well. But speaking, it was a little bit difficult for me to get out of my shell and speak and practice as much as I wanted to in class because I guess I was just a bit shyer than I wanted to be. So I thought, I want a place in which I'm not going to have that opportunity to be shy and like back away. I need to go somewhere where these people aren't going to have any choice but to speak to me in Spanish because I had heard from some former people who had studied abroad that, in Madrid, like if you go into a restaurant or a bar, somebody might just like detect your accent and talk to you in English. I was like, ooh, I want something different. So Madrid and Barcelona were choices, as well as Granada in the south. And I know that number one, that's also a touristy place. And number two, the accent is a little bit more difficult down south in Spain. Mm-hmm. And then the last choice was Valladolid. And I looked it up and I was like, okay, it's kind of right outside of Madrid. It's like an hour and a half away on the train. So if I need to go home or if I need to travel or whatever, it's going to be easy to get to Madrid. But also, it's not going to be a place where I walk into school or I walk into a store and somebody's just going to approach me in English. So that's why I chose it. I also knew that I definitely want to be in Spain, in Europe, because I had a teacher in high school that I believe she either studied abroad in Spain or she had some sort of family connection in Spain. And I was like, this looks cool from the pictures and the videos that she showed us. But more than anything, I really wanted to be connected to, I guess, other countries in Europe too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I want an experience in Spain, but I also want an experience in Europe. So that was kind of my thought process behind choosing Valladolid, and I don't regret it. The only thing I do regret, if any professors are listening to this, you're going to say, I told you so. The one thing I regret is only doing a semester abroad and not a year.
That's not an awful regret.
I know, but I gave them a lot of issues with that because there could be regrets
that are so much worse. Now, can you go into that a little bit? What do you mean in the sense of like you gave them a lot? Like you mentioned that like why is that the regret basically? Why is that the regret?
I just feel like I had a great time in Valladolid, but I feel like I would have gotten a lot more out of study abroad if it was longer. And I think a lot of people feel that way. Oh, yeah. I definitely was homesick, but I felt so fortunate because I was so closely like connected, because WhatsApp is awesome. Like you can just get on the phone and talk to whoever you want. So, I mean, even though you're far away, you're still connected with family and friends. Additionally, like the host mom that actually both of us lived with, because we lived with the same host family. Okay. She really made it feel like Valladolid was my home. I had a mom and a family, or faux mom and family there who, like, if I needed anything, they were there for me. I had friends there. I had my own little group of people that I could hang out with. The professors there were awesome and taught us so much about the language and the culture and, of course, the grammar and the art and all of that. I just kind of wish that I had a little bit more time. Professors at E-Town were telling me to do a year, and I kept telling them, no, one semester is going to be good, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm just going to finish my requirements with Spanish language within the modern language department, and I should have listened to them. But it's okay because I'm back here now.
Well, you're back now. So, like,
yeah.
The regret, of course, is the time that could have been being there, spending more time with the people you met there. But you're back. So that's all that matters at the end of the day. But I'm not you. So it's always a different perspective. But, and also you had a minor that you were doing as well. Did I also play a part of it? Like in biology, your minor, wanting to do that, or?
Yeah. But then at the end with like field work and everything, with student teaching and everything, it just wasn't feasible to finish that anyway. So that's why I'm saying I regret it, because I was like, if I had known that before, I would have probably just given up on that dream and just stayed in Spain for longer. And it was really just kind of one of a passion of mine. Like, I just loved anatomy and learning about the human body. And I think that that's also kind of useful. I mean, maybe more in the psychology aspect more than anything, but I just liked learning about the human body, the brain, neuroscience, all that stuff. But I just, with time and everything, and with schedules and the required courses for my major, because remember, like, Spanish Ed was 2 double majors. So, I mean,
you're double major. You're double major.
So, yeah.
It's not on paper, it's not, but in reality, it is.
It is.
To an extent. It's also like, I look back at it and I question like how I graduated on time. I really do. Because
when you study,
it's so much. Like, you study abroad, and we're also still young. Like, the human mind doesn't really develop, and I'm sure you know this already as a psychology person. It doesn't develop until you're like 25, like fully. That's when like maturity really kicks in. So
I got 1 year left.
So you got 1 year left to figure it out. But we're like 18, 19-year-olds with this idea of like, let's go live abroad for a semester. We're super young, like this energy, but then we may not be factoring in completely like the idea of the classes we have to take or how much it's going to cost. Will this affect our graduation? How will it work? And you also have to have a good advisor with you. Like E-Town was amazing, and I was very thankful that I had an advisor that sat me down and was like, okay, if you want to go abroad, you need to take these classes while you're there, and then when you come back, you better pass all your classes when you're here, or else you're not going to graduate on time. So, but then even hearing that when I'm 20, I'm just like, oh, just take me to Spain. I don't care. And then if you want to do it again, you're like, oh, that's feasibly just not going to work. So, but nonetheless, it is a regret, because why not be there longer if you could? So,
yeah, and it was a lot going on at once, and I was also a part of the honors program, so there were like those classes that I was juggling too. So, I mean, it's a regret, but I'm okay with how things worked out. I graduated, I got my Fulbright, I'm here, so can't really be too mad.
You're there now, and you're going to be there probably for a while. So I eventually will visit, and I can't wait for free housing, which is great. So
you got it. Once the travel bans are up, you just let me know.
I'm on my way. Between you and Carmen, I don't have to worry about anything. So,
you don't.
I'm excited. So another reason I really wanted to get you on here was, so when I brought on my third guest, Rachel Wessenberg, she chatted about the Peace Corps process and what it was like applying, and we talked about that both because we went through it. Now, I did part of the Fulbright process, so I understand like the application portion. But then Peace Corps came in and was like, no. So, but you went through the full process. So I actually would love for you to talk about what that was like, starting it, what the professors at E-Town told you, the prestigious scholarships director preparing you for that. How was that for you? And what were your feelings like throughout the whole process? Let's go in depth with that a little bit, because you're there now, and a lot of viewers might not know what that's about. So,
yes. So for those of you who may not know, Fulbright is considered a prestigious scholarship, and it's highly regarded both in the United States and in the countries in which there are Fulbright programs. So there are two parts of Fulbright that you can apply for. There's either an English teaching assistant, or you can apply to do research in a foreign country. I believe in some countries, such as Spain, there are also like doctoral candidates, pre-doctoral candidates who do research. Unfortunately, I don't have much knowledge about that. I just know about what's called the Fulbright students, scholars, who are people who do this like immediately after graduating and obtaining either a bachelor or a master's degree. So the process is very long. You kind of have to know in your mind that you want to do this ahead of time. So when I was applying, I believe it was still the same this year and last year as well. You have to apply by, maybe it was October 5th. It's like around that fall break time, around there, beginning of October. So you kind of have to have in your mind, maybe around like this time now, April, May, June, that you want to do it. Because I reached out to the program advisor, Professor Benowitz at school, and I said, hey, I want to do this. I want to apply to be an English teaching assistant, because I think it aligns very well with my major and with my personal and my professional goals about what I want to achieve later on. That being said, you do not have to be an education major. You don't have to be a language major. One of the great things about Fulbright, and I believe Peace Corps as well, is that it brings people together who have many different backgrounds, academic, whatever their history may be, their personal backgrounds, all of that. But for me, I just felt like it was really in line with what I wanted to do. So we kind of started talking before the school year ended, my junior year, going into senior year. He told me over summer to kind of start drafting these essays, because the application is a series of 2 essays. They also have little short answer kind of things in there, but the bulk of it all is just 2 essays. The first one is a personal statement essay, which for me, that one was easier because I feel like you're just telling your life story, and you're telling the steps that you have taken up until this point of hopefully achieving a Fulbright scholarship. So I kind of wrote about, myself and how I wanted to be a teacher ever since I was young, how I used to take my little stuffed animals and I used to teach them like on my whiteboard, and kind of just went into depth about like volunteering with the extended school year program. And it's like painting a picture for them of who you are, because the rest of the application is very academic, about volunteer work, extracurriculars. So that is your chance to show them who you are. It's very difficult because it's one page, single spaced, like size 12. You can't even get away with the size 11.5. No, it has to be 12. And I think after I wrote that one, because that one was easier for me, I showed up with like 2 pages or 1.5 pages. But it's always better to have more than less. Remember that. And then the second essay was a little bit more difficult. It was about what you plan on achieving when you're there, and kind of academic background as well. I think, I'm not too sure what that one is called at this point, but there are 2. One of them's more personal, one of them's more academic, and what you plan on getting out of the scholarship. So like I said, I wrote all these essays. They were definitely well over 1 page single spaced. But Professor Benowitz and I met every Monday once the school year began. So my senior year began end of August, I believe. We sat down every Monday morning from 8 a.m. to like 10 a.m. every Monday. And we would just go through those essays, crossing out things, circling things, and being like, more details needed, or like expand on this, change this word, change that word. And a lot of the advisors really know some of the buzzwords and things that you should add about your personal experience, what these people are kind of looking for. So we did that. Everything was great. We spent maybe a month doing this once a week. We were both very satisfied with the final product because we both put a lot of work into it. And like I said, I love writing, and it was very easy for me to get things down on paper. But then you're thinking, like, what else should they know about me? Is this part important? Is that part important? Should I add this? Should I not? So that's when the Fulbright interview comes in, which isn't an official interview. It's the professors or the staff who had worked on your letters of recommendation, or maybe your advisor, the Fulbright advisor as well. Professor Benowitz was there, and we all sat in a room. And these professors had received copies of my essays beforehand. And they just kind of were asking me to, expand on these things that I had written, to see really what was important and what wasn't. So we had these final copies, but after that interview, we kind of knew, okay, we can cross some more things out, or maybe we should add more things. And it was very informal. I still was kind of nervous, but it was really just a moment for me and for them to get to know me, because a lot of these professors at E-Town have sat on the Fulbright board in the United States, choosing like yes or no to these applicants. So it was really a moment for me to learn from them. So after that, we got the final copies of my essays. We worked on the short answer essays, and they have a character limit of maybe like 200 words or something. So it's nothing like crazy. Then you have to submit like, I guess, a resume of these things that you've done, your grades and all that stuff. Just keep in mind, if any of you watching are interested in this, there is no GPA that you need. What I mean by that is maybe in some classes you didn't do so great, but then you can balance that with volunteer work or community service, and that's great for them. There's no like cookie cutter who they look for this. So that's why those essays are really important, because you can show them what you want to show them, and prove to them why you deserve this. We submitted it, I think maybe a week before the due date, because I like Professor Benowitz, we like to have things done ahead of time because I wanted my fall break to relax after this. So we submitted it one of those Monday mornings, and I sat there in his office and I was like,
How was
it's
that?
gone. It's gone.
How was that? Because I know. So before you go into any more, I know just generally how much you wanted it, and I also know how much work that took to an extent. So like, how did that feel when you both sat down and were like, how was that? How was that feeling?
It was just like a quiet moment because I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's gone. Like, I can't change it anymore. And for those of y'all who don't know me watching this, like, I can't put into words how badly I wanted this scholarship and this opportunity. And I know how competitive it is. And I'm one of those people that I just believe no matter how great my application looks, I know that there's going to be somebody better than me. And I just keep that in my mind. Like, that's how it always is going to be. So you just don't know if it's going to be like between you and somebody else for that final space. And I was thinking, I can't do anything. It's gone. And it was just a lot of emotion just came over me because after you submit it in October, it's a waiting game. So you just have to wait to find out your fate. So it was very emotional.
I remember so 50% of me, I did mine with Professor Pennis as well, the Peace Corps application. Absolutely not even close in-depth matters not even close to how in-depth it was with the Fulbright application. Not even close. It was very much more simplified, but nonetheless, when it came to competitiveness, it was still very much on that playing field. If not somewhat more to an extent with Peru, because I was unknowingly being a knucklehead and shooting for the stars, but I'm happy I did. And 50% of me was like, oh my God, I wait now. And then the other 50% was like, good riddance to that application. It was like the stress that gave me for a month straight as we were working on that, and like the meetings nonstop, and then him just looking at me and being like, what's this doing in here? You need to take this out, and then we need to focus on this, and why are we not talking about red anymore? Like all that stuff. But like, of course, he's the pro. He knows what he's doing. But then I was just like, and then when we finally sent, I was like, good riddance. I'm going to eat now. I'm just like, it was like a big burden lifted off the shoulders. That's me personally. So then the waiting game of waiting for life to happen. So you get to that interview round, and what happens now? What's next for you, basically, waiting once you finally hear back?
So I think a lot of countries do have an interview. Spain doesn't. And I was prepared this whole time for there to be an interview, actually, just because I have friends who have done Fulbright in other countries and they've had an interview. And I think it's mainly like because of language. So any of y'all watching that might be interested in another country, they might check your language proficiency via an interview. But that's just not the case for Spain. They just receive so many applicants every year and applications that I just don't think that there's time, truly. I think I would have preferred it, but I'm glad, obviously, with how it worked out, because I was thinking like, oh, but if I didn't put this in the essay, like I could tell them when I meet them, but that's not how it is. So submitted it in October. Then you have to wait until the end of January when you find out if you're a semifinalist or no. So I'm grateful for that because I was thinking, I mean, if they tell me no in January, I can continue searching for other options. January comes, I'm at my student teaching. It's this moment where I knew I shouldn't have checked my email, but I did because I think it was during one of my break periods when the students were at like PE or something. And I had a friend who also applied. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I knew I shouldn't have. And I had a friend who also applied for Fulbright Mongolia. And I just knew. I checked my phone for a second and I saw our group chat was blowing up and I was like, the decisions are out. I knew I shouldn't have checked my email at work, but I did. And I screamed because I found out I was the semi-finalist, and I scared my co-op teacher. He was like, "What happened?" And I was crying. So then end of January, they tell you you're moving on to the final round. Like the next time you hear from us, it's going to be like either you got it and you're going to Spain or no. And that one, it's an indefinite period of time. You don't know when the decision's coming. For the first round, they tell you like end of January, you're going to know. So I was kind of expecting it, but I didn't know when the next one was coming. So I was hearing that a lot of people from other programs were finding out end of February, beginning of March. So I'm getting a little bit antsy here. I mean, normally I am very patient, but with this, it was like, is my email not working? Did it go into spam? Like, what is this? And one day I told myself, I'm going crazy. I need to stop checking my email. Like, this is nuts. And that was the day that the decisions came out. So I found out at like 8:00 that night. And it was like this big email saying, congratulations, you were picked as a finalist. You're going to Spain. And I think I called you that night too. And I was like, I got it.
I think it was Snapchat, right? It was like a Snapchat message. Now, was I in Peru when you sent me that?
Yeah.
I was. Because it was your senior year. I was in Peru. Yes, and then I called you because you messaged me. Yes. So you found out in March, basically.
End of March. I believe the date was March 27th. I remember.
You remember exactly. Now, since you have it, I feel like we can be honest here. How would you have genuinely felt if it didn't work out?
Crushed. Yeah, I just didn't know if I was going to get it or not, because nothing is like guaranteed about this process. Like I said, it's so competitive. I mean, they choose, I think, maybe less than like 20% of people who apply, if not like less than that, honestly. So, I mean, I just don't know. I feel like maybe a lot of teachers applied, like maybe they want someone with a different background. Maybe my essay wasn't specific enough, you know. But I just felt like I've wanted it for so long. Equally, like as much as anybody else who applied, I'm sure. But if it didn't work out, I just didn't know what I was going to do. I mean, I was sending out applications and everything to have plan Bs.
Actually,
plan
like
B,
teaching jobs per se.
Yeah.
But that was without a doubt plan A.
But like when I was going on these websites and looking for jobs, my heart just wasn't in it, because I just wanted to know, like, is this something that I have to do? Like, or is Fulbright going to actually work out? Because it was a dream, you know?
Most definitely. And then I remember Professor Benowitz telling you that, and telling me that too, telling all of us that, like, you can be the most amazing, incredible person, but the 400 other applicants could be just as incredible, if not more. And maybe all 400 sent in like perfect grammarless like essays and perfect like grammarless like problems, like everything was great, but they somehow have to dwindle it down to like 80. How do you do that? They pick the nuances. Maybe it does factor in the GPA and they tell you it doesn't matter, and it does. You don't know because you're not on that committee. So it's more so just like you get it, you take it, and you run. you just take it, you're like, okay, that's good.
And honestly, like Professor Benowitz, I don't think that there's, I mean, maybe there are, but he is like the perfect person to do it, because like you said, he was like, what's this doing in here? This needs to go. Like, hasta luego to this part, like, bye. And I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate everybody who wrote me the letters of recommendation, which I don't think I said this, but you need 3. And then, and somebody to attest to your language skills if you're going to a country where you need to know a second language. So I really do appreciate everybody who is involved in that, because for them, it's just another letter of recommendation. But for me, it was that they helped me achieve my dream. So appreciative.
I don't know what's more intimidating, the pressure of actually applying or the pressure of being a recommendation letter to help the person get into Fulbright. I don't know
Yeah.
which one. I don't know which one. I say this completely 1000% selfishly. I hope I never have to write a Fulbright recommendation letter. I mean that. Because my heart will sink if anybody ever asks me to do that. Because I'm gonna be like, oh man, this is gonna be like a 6th class for me. I'm gonna have to like go to Grammarly and make sure everything is perfect. but you're there nonetheless. And you were the perfect person to talk about that. So now, if any of you are ever interested in looking into Fulbright, you know how it works. And so you applied when did you start the application? Like August of 2018, technically?
Yeah, I started it around then, but maybe in June and July of that summer, I was just doing like rough drafts of the essays myself, just like for my eyes to see. So when I met Professor Menowitz in August, like I knew I had a baseline of what I was going to show him, but I didn't like open the application and create my account until I got there in August, and both of us did it together.
Gosh, Peace Corps and Fulbright like break hearts and make dreams. those two programs really. I remember the night before my interview, I did not sleep. The night before my Peace Corps interview, which was like the final round interview, I went to my interview with like satanic like eyes, as if like not like I didn't sleep, and then like I was like chugging coffee just because I was so nervous because I knew what that meant. I knew what like this interview meant, and I knew what that moment meant. And then like getting that email, like the burden it takes off your shoulders, and knowing that like all those hours spent, and that you were chosen over people who wanted it as well. Like that also like is something to like be very proud of. Like it wasn't just you that wanted to do it; it was a bunch of other
everybody.
People yeah. So, well, you're there now. You're there, which is phenomenal, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So, you're in La Rioja. You're doing your work there, but now you're there as a mentor because you were originally there as a person. So, how is that different from as like a norm, like just doing a normal Fulbright? So, how is that from the first year that you were doing actual ETA work as a Fulbrighter to now being a person who helps the Fulbrighters transition? How has that been, those two differences?
So first of all, I just want to say not every Fulbright destination has the mentor opportunity. Spain is one of them, and typically it's the countries that have, I believe, like a bigger Fulbright community that has this opportunity. And if you were planning on going to a location like Spain or somewhere else that has this opportunity, then just know that you can apply and be a grantee. And then if you're chosen as the mentor for the following year, like that's it. You're done with Fulbright after that 2-year cap. Like you cannot renew anymore. So last year I was working as an ETA in my school, at my elementary school. Everything was great. I was in pre-K through 6th grade all the time doing English classes, and just solely English classes. This year I did the application to come back again, not the same application. It was more of an internal thing with the Fulbright Spain Commission. And they choose who they want to be the mentor for each comunidad in Spain, which is like kind of like each state maybe in the United States, in which there is a Fulbright grantee or community. So from there, they chose me. So I am the mentor, but I also have my ETA duties. So I do the same thing plus an additional job. So every day I go to school, I teach, I do all that. But then I'm also in charge of, if anybody here has like questions for me or, you know, about the visa process, that might be more of a Fulbright commission thing, but about the daily life here, you know, or like, I need to buy this, like, which store can I go to? And I tell them, or I need to go to the doctor. Can you like explain to me again how that process is? And I do that. But more than that,
I need to go to the doctor.
Listen, it's very difficult, especially if it's your first time in a different country. I mean, like, how do you navigate that? Guess what? that's me. I help them with that. Or more than that, I'm just in charge of creating a community with these people who are in the same region as me, which has had its challenges this year with everything going on. But
Yes.
I'm trying. It's a lot of online Zoom calls, game nights, just office hours online. I do have a resource for them, which is called the La Rioja Library, which is like a ton of books for teachers and all. If they want them, they can check them out from me. It's things like that that I'm in charge of. But sometimes the grantees are super independent, which I love. I'm like, do your thing. Like, that's great. So sometimes I have a lot of work. Sometimes I don't. I did have a lot of work when they were initially arriving here, because this year they arrived in January instead of September due to the pandemic. So it was a lot of work then, because we have like an orientation, which is typically in person where everyone gets to meet each other, but we had to do it online this year, and we really were working so hard to have like the same effect as an in-person one. So, I mean, that was when the bulk of my work was like crowded in. January, February, orientation, everyone's arriving, nobody knows where to find housing, like all of that. But now things are calmer. They don't need me as much, but if they did, that's my job. That's what I'm here for. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
You're basically Sergio, but for the Fulbright.
Yeah.
The Fulbright DTAs, basically. You're their residence director. you're their residence director.
It's kind of like when I was a peer mentor, but for the Fulbrighters. So I mean, I had some experience before this.
You know what you're doing. You're set.
Most days.
You're good. Most days. We had something like that, Peace Corps volunteer leaders. They were there for an extra year. But the most important thing, you get that visa stamp. So you get to stay longer, which is great. But this is what you love, and it shows, which is awesome. Now, it goes without saying that, of course, you're there to work, but life is also a thing as well. You're there to cherish the memories. So let's talk about some of the places in Spain that you absolutely love going to, or some memories per se that you really enjoy. Is there a place that stands out, not just La Rioja, but also like outside of Valladolid, that you loved visiting throughout your time there?
Well, I would have to say my favorite place, without a doubt, is San Sebastian. Anybody who's planning on going to Spain should go there. It's in the north of Spain. It's kind of like a beach area, but then there are also mountains, and then it also has like your typical European like city with the cobblestone streets and everything. It has everything meshed into one. And I went there my first time when I was studying abroad in Valladolid with the group of girls that was studying there as well. And it was just like nothing I had ever seen before. Just all of that mix of the naturaleza, like nature all together. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, I have not been able to go back, but I am going back soon, and I'll tell you how. I am planning on taking an official like Spanish language exam for no reason other than I just want it, just in case I ever need to like show that I am certified and like know what I'm doing with Spanish. And that is where I'm taking my exam with one of my friends here. So we decided to escape to San Sebastian. So that's my big like journey of this whole entire time that I've been here. But yeah, that's definitely been my favorite place. You've gone there, right?
Of course. You have
to go.
It's like, it's more important. I don't want to say more important than Barcelona, but in my eyes, it's up there. And Spain is just so like, oh my God, so many places to go to. And like not enough time unless you're there for a significant amount of time. And even being there for like 4 months, I was like, man, I miss so many places. Like I wish. One of my favorites, I love Sevilla. Did you get to go down to the south yet?
No, I was planning on doing. Listen,
you need to go there. What are you doing?
I had a whole thing planned for the end of last year when I finished my grant. We were gonna go down there, explore all of Andalusia, and like rent a car and drive around. And that obviously didn't happen, but maybe this year fingers crossed
The
that we're
world
allowed
said
to travel.
the world said no. No, but like go for it. Like next time after San Sebastian, check out Sevilla. Check rent that car whenever that cars can be rentable again in Spain, and just go for it. You'll love it. Bring your sunscreen. It's hot.
Listen, I bring it everywhere I go. Don't worry.
It's hot down there. I loved it. Like I remember, like that for some reason was where I felt the most at home when I was in Sevilla. People were so nice, weather was so gorgeous, beaches were amazing. Like I was like, damn, why didn't I study abroad here? Like that's what I was thinking at first. Loved Valladolid. Everything was great. Met phenomenal people who have been on this podcast and people who like I will cherish forever. But like I was in Sevilla and I was like, oh my God. Like this place is amazing. That's where you got to go next. But again, you live your life and you do what you want to do. So
it's been on my list. I have a dream of just like visiting all of the comunidades in Spain. Right now it's difficult because you're not supposed to leave the one in which you are like living, residing, and working in. So haven't really crossed off anything this year, but hopefully soon. It's a different kind of year. That's what I like to say.
That's awesome. And you also did go to Barcelona. We chatted about that a little bit. And Barcelona is tourism capital per se. But one thing we did mention was like we both had phenomenal experiences there. And if we can just chat about that a little bit in regards to like what stood out for you while you were there. And of course, like you see the basics, you see like Sagrada Familia, you see maybe Parque Gal, but there were things that like I remember when I was there, I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. So like talk about your time in Barcelona a little bit. What did you experience while you were there?
Well, even though you said that they are very like touristy and super cliche, like Sagrada Familia has to be one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen. Just like I love typical like European cathedrals or churches with those stained glass windows. To me, it's just like phenomenal. And I don't know if you took the art class in Valladolid too. Like that was what I wrote my final like essay on, the Sagrada Familia. Like how I don't know, it's just like the windows are faced so like when the sun rises, like all the warm colors like come into the church, and when it's setting, all the like cold or cool colors like come out. And I just think that that's so genius. And it's like a forest with all the pillars like trees. I don't know. I felt artsy when I was in there, as well as the Parque Gil. I thought that it's phenomenal. Like all the mosaic pieces, everything is like created with little tiles. It's beautiful. And as much as I love Valladolid and like where I am in La Rioja, you just don't see that and like that type of art or culture. I also did enjoy, not gonna lie, being in like a bigger city for a little bit, you know, where public transportation, the metro can take you from like point A to point B so quickly.
Yep.
I don't know that it would be my scene for like every day, but to visit, it was super nice. And the last time I went last year, I actually met up with some E-Town students who are doing study abroad there. And it was like just this experience where both of us, like all of us who were friends at E-Town, like met up abroad in a different place, and we're experiencing all these places together. All of the cool buildings, you know, with the mosaics on one of the main streets. Y'all who have been to Barcelona, hear me like talk about this so generally. You're probably like, what? No, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a cultural capital of Spain, I feel like.
I loved it. I think my personal favorite was going on like a all extensive tour of like Barcelona. Our tour guide was great. And this is coming from somebody who like loves tours. And right now, like I'm in charge of the tours at the college that I work at. So I'm like a tour guy. I love tours. And like that's my thing. Like give me a good tour and I'm like set for the rest of my week. But like that was so great. He was so funny. The one thing I wish I could have done that I didn't do was a bike tour. So whenever I go back there, that's going to be one of my priorities, to do like a bike tour, because I didn't do that last time, but I wanted to do that. But it was just great, like seeing like everything Barcelona had to offer. On top of everything you mentioned, food I thought was great. I loved it. Definitely, I'm very happy that BCA convinced me not to go there. And I mean that as a compliment, Barcelona. Because like Barcelona, I mean that I really do. City vibe, that whole entire area is overwhelming. It can be a lot. Like just the 5 days that I was there, I was like, oh man, this is a lot. So like I can't imagine like a 6-month or a 5-month stay. Whereas Valladolid was much more like hush hush, very beautiful, small historical town. I love Barcelona. I loved it.
Where I am now is even more small than Valladolid, so you got an idea.
Hush, 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 hush.
Yeah.
Great.
Even more so.
Even great. So how is it where you're at right now? Do you like the tranquilidad, the peace, the quietness? Is it your vibe where you're at right now?
I really do love it. I think that there are pros and cons to everywhere, such as Valladolid as well. But one of the things that has really made my experience here is that I am in a small town. And at first I was just like, how am I going to do this? Because the town where I am now is not like the capital of La Rioja. So like the capital is Logroño, and I live in Calahorra, which is the second biggest town. But I mean, it's a population of like 25,000 people. So it's really, it's not that much. So I was like, how am I going to find my people here? Like, what am I going to do? There's not even a university in my town, which is like where I found my people last time. But with that, I feel like everybody there, or not everybody, but almost everybody has been open to me with such like welcoming arms. Everybody I've worked with, I haven't had a problem with any of them. I love going to work every day. I see all my students on the streets. They're all like, Melissa! And I stop and I talk with their families. Their families know somebody who's my age that wants to, I don't know, hang out with me. Like that was last year when everything was fine. But they had somebody my age who wants to like go out to the bar with me, and they'll invite me, you know, with their friends, and maybe they can all practice their English with me. So as much as like Valladolid was also just like this homey feeling, I feel like that's even like amplified now, because truly every time I leave my house, I see somebody that I give class to, somebody who like is with their parents, who their parents' friends are like friends with somebody that I know. So it's like this very intertwined town, which I didn't experience last time, but it's really nice, especially now when you can't really leave that much. And it really helps if you're feeling homesick to just be around these people that really value your presence and what you have to bring to their community.
Awesome. Look at that. We've been chatting for Spain about an hour. That's awesome. And we can chat about it for 10 more hours if we wanted to.
Yeah.
But we won't. But let me ask you one final question, per se, which is, what are you thinking now? You're there, and you're establishing a life over there. Like you're there. So like, what are you thinking next? What's the hope once that visa, per se, for Fulbright is coming to an end? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, no, that's fine. But I was going to say that's an interesting question that maybe I don't have the answer to yet. I did apply for another program, which for those of y'all watching at home, if you're thinking like, I really want to be abroad, but maybe Fulbright is a little bit too intense, which if that's what you're thinking, I understand, don't worry. There's another program called Auxiliares de Conversación for Spain, you can look it up as like North American Language Assistance in Spain or something like that.
I know that program. One of the Peace Corps people did it. He loved it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I sent my application in. You typically hear back in May or June. So, I mean, like right at the end of that visa stage. So I know that they've received all of my documents and my application and all that, but I haven't heard back. But the difference between Fulbright and that program is that you tend to work less hours with Auxiliares, and the application isn't as competitive and prestigious. The application period now is closed, but if you're thinking for like, I guess that would be 2 years from now, if you're thinking maybe that's what you want to do, keep it in the back of your mind. I think it just is a few hours less per week than Fulbright. But you can always compensate that with community service or local tutoring classes, or I don't know, volunteer work, whatever you prefer. But that's going to be my next step. Stay tuned to see if it works out. I really hope so. And I really hope to be back in the same town, back at the same school. That's one of my biggest goals. So I just really connected with all my students, and really, truly all of my colleagues. All of them mean so much to me. So I hope to be back there again.
Future Queen of Spain, it's going to happen.
Oh, goodness. Listen, I have to pass my language exam first before that happens.
Which, of course, you'll pass, and you'll get like fluency. Of course, it's going to happen. You're already there. There is a king and queen in Spain, by the way, and one of them will be occupied by Melissa. So when we all watch this back 40 years from now, I'm gonna feel special.
Well, hopefully by then I don't have like my American accent when I speak Spanish. Hopefully that goes away a little bit.
Your Spanish accent is already seeping into your English accent.
Oh God.
The Jersey voice in you is starting to leave. It's happening. It's happening. Which is cool. Which is cool. So, and then I wanted to ask this earlier, but I forgot. My actual last question is: do you speak more Spanish there or English there?
So this is one of the things that's quite difficult, because if you ask me that about Valladolid, I'd say Spanish.
Yeah.
But now that my whole entire like day and job is speaking English, because I'm in a bilingual school, I tell my students I don't speak Spanish because I feel like if I tell them I do, they'll be like, say hola, like say me llamo Melissa. And I'll be like, I don't know what you're saying to me. I've said that to them. So because of that, I feel like my answer would have to be English, which is kind of unfortunate. But in like my personal life here, when I meet with teachers, most of the time it's in Spanish, unless they're like, can we practice English today? And of course I'm going to be like, yes. But I mean, I'm working on that. That's why I'm like still taking Spanish classes and trying to improve my language. I feel like once a language student, always a language student. I can always learn more.
That's a fact. But nonetheless, you are an official, unofficial, soon-to-be official Spaniard. So we're on the way. It's happening. So but that's awesome. So unless there's anything else you want to let us know, I think we'll wrap it up on that mark.
Well, I just want to say thanks to you for having me. It was awesome. And for those of you watching that are like on the fence about studying abroad, I always say do it. It's going to change your life. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I mean, it's true. I feel like everybody you talk to that has gone abroad has just had a life-changing experience, and it inspired them to do whatever they're doing now. And, you know, maybe you could be like me. Maybe it could be something that just really pushes you in your career path. So, yeah.
There's only one Melissa, so I don't think anybody can be like you. Oh, there will only be one next Queen of Spain. So, and then
we'll see.
We'll just stay on the throne. But thank you so much. We appreciate it, and hope you have a great day.
Of course. Bye.